This happened a few months ago on a trip I was taking to see my grandparents. They live about an hour and a half away, and I take the Natchez Trace Parkway to their house. For those who aren't familiar with it, it's a national parkway that is surrounded by woods, for lack of a better description. Along the parkway there are many places you can pull off and see landmarks from American history, most having to do with Native American Indians. There are no stores or gas stations along the parkway without having to exit off and drive a few miles to the nearest town. They do provide several bathrooms on the trace for travelers. For this trip I was alone, since my husband had to work. I had left my grandparents' house and I was about 45 minutes into my drive when I realized this large drink I'd gotten at Taco Bell was a huge mistake. I had to pee. Like, really had to pee. I was on a long stretch of the trace where the next exit was a good 20 miles ahead. Now I was prepared to wait it out, since I was alone and didn't want to use the bathrooms, as usually there were other travelers stopping there to rest and use the restrooms. When I got closer to the restrooms, I decided I would pull in and look around and see if maybe no one would be there, or a large group of people would be there. My bladder felt like it was about to explode and I really thought I might have an accident if I tried to make it to the next town. So I pull in and immediately notice a parkway ranger parked at the restrooms along with one other vehicle. I figured since the ranger was there, I would be safe to run in and use the restroom quickly. I got out of my car and caught the ranger's eye, and he nodded his head at me, so I locked my car and went inside the restroom. I was thinking it would stay until I left the restroom, so I felt completely safe. When I got in the stall, I heard a car start up and thought it was the other vehicle that was sitting in the lot. I was very wrong. Not 15 seconds later, the door to the restroom opened and someone started banging on the stall door. I was mid-pee and I had to go so bad I couldn't stop. I could see a pair of men's shoes underneath the stall door and two very large, hefty legs. He wasn't saying anything, just banging on the door. I finished as quickly as I could, got my pants pulled up and everything, then just froze. I didn't know what to do. It was obviously the ranger who had left the parking lot. This guy is banging on the door, not saying a word. I finally found my voice and asked him what he wanted. He told me to come out of the stall. His voice sounded so calm compared to the banging. I yelled at him and told him I had my phone with me and was going to call 911. He just kept banging and calmly telling me to come out of the stall. I was praying that the latch would break. I unfortunately, and stupidly, didn't have my phone on me. But still I pretended I was calling 911 and talking to a dispatcher. The man stopped banging and I heard him run out of the restroom. I waited a minute, what felt like an hour, and heard his vehicle start up, so I decided to run to my car. I got my keys ready, unlocked my car, and ran as fast as I could. Once I got in, I immediately locked my doors and started my car. The man was still parked in the lot, in his truck, so I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. They told me to wait right there while they transferred me to the ranger's dispatch. Well, I guess the man saw me get my phone and realized I hadn't called when I was in the restroom. He jumped out of his truck and started coming towards my car. I was still waiting to talk to the other dispatcher, but there was no way I was going to sit there while this man tried to break into my car or something. So I reversed out of the lot onto the road. The dispatcher came on the line, and I was focused on driving, telling her everything that happened, that a ranger had been there like 5 minutes earlier. She told me to hold on while she tried to find the ranger that was there. I glanced in the rearview mirror to see the truck right behind me. I screamed down the phone to tell the dispatcher, but I guess I was on hold because she didn't come back on the line for another 30 seconds or so. When she came back, I was screaming that he was behind me and she was trying to calm me down. She said the ranger was just down the road from me and to put my flashers on so when I passed him he would know I was the one who needed help. When I put my flashers on, the man slowed and got further behind me. I'd gone about a mile when I saw the ranger. He got behind the truck and the man just pulled over. I pulled over about 500 feet in front of them. I watched as the ranger made the man get out of his truck and handcuff him and put him in the police car. The ranger then came to talk to me and said that the man said it wasn't him and just denied everything. Luckily, the ranger recognized him since he was in the parking lot when I pulled up. The ranger told me I could go, so I left and went home. I haven't heard what happened since to the man, but I've never driven to the trace by myself since, and I always make sure I use the restroom before I leave my grandparents. I still have no idea why the ranger left the parking lot. I was too shaken up when I talked to him to ask. "Shut up, Stacy, I'm trying to read," I yelled at my little sister.
Nah, you can't make me,"
she teased in that squeaky, annoying 7-year-old voice of hers. "Mike," my mom called back to me, "stop yelling at your sister. And Stacy, leave your brother alone. It's been a long trip for all of us, but we'll be there in 10 minutes. We were on our way to our new house. My parents had just gotten divorced, and my mom got full custody of us, so the three of us were getting a new, fresh start. A house in the country with no neighbors, no telephone reception, and no one to hear you scream. I've probably read too many horror stories. Still, it sounded creepy. None of us had been there, but we read an online description. 3 stories tall, 3 bed, 2 bath, and a basement. All the rooms are pre-furnished, the article my mom found read. Built in the 1800s. It's one of the only brick houses in that century that's still standing in Illinois. I thought it sounded cool, so I did my own research. It turned out the house was famous. Famous enough to have a whole book dedicated to it in the library. I was reading it in the car. "Hey Mom," I said, "listen to this. I have confirmed the rumors about the house the traveling circus stayed in. I just spent one night in the downstairs bedroom, and the circus freaks that died there still haunt the house. I was scared more than the time a lion attacked my face." The book never says they left, and all that they found was the journal that he had written in. "Sweetie," my mom said over Stacy's sobs, "you're scaring your sister, and don't believe everything you read." The book almost fell out of my lap as our car took a sudden left turn. I stared out the window. The crisp autumn weather had caused the dry leaves to fall from the row of the trees lining the crescent driveway. As we pulled up, the house itself towered above us. Its dark bricks threatened to fall on us, and the small square windows creaked with every gust of wind. The darkness from the setting sun didn't help. "Mommy," Stacy cried, "I don't want to live here. It's creepy. Mike, what have you done?" My mom had turned around to face us after parking in the front of the house. "Honey, I promise this house isn't haunted. Look, there's some flowers under that window. Want to go pick some to put on our new table?" Stacy smiled and hopped out of the car. The hearts on her dress seemed to dance as she ran up to the nearest flower bed beneath the front window. She bent over and took a deep sniff as Mom watched, smiling affectionately. "Eek!" Mom and I raced over to little Stacy. She had fallen down and was soaking wet from the gag flowers. But instead of crying, she was laughing, and our mom Sue joined in. "I guess this is a true circus house. Hey, who wants to go play hide and go seek with the new furniture?" Mom handed us each a list of the rooms and the furniture in them she had printed off the internet. "Wait, first I want to pick out my new room," Stacy said. "I want mine to be as far away from the basement as possible." According to this, there's 1 bedroom on each floor," my mom said as she squinted at one of the mini documents about the house. "I'll take the one on the 2nd floor so I could be equidistant from you two. Mike, that leaves you." "The 1st floor bedroom," I blurted out. No. That's where the journalist died, remember?" Stacy started up the waterworks for the 1000th time. "No one died in this house, Mike!" Mom was getting pretty mad. "Whatever. Just don't get upset when I'm not there in the morning." Stacy's wet, red eyes stared up at me and her lips quivered into a huge frown. Suddenly, I felt bad for my sister. "I'm sorry, Stace. I'm sure we'll all be just fine. Hey, want me to take you to your room?" She inched forward and slowly reached up to my hand. She changed her mind and quickly hugged my arm. "Let's go," she said quietly. "Thank you, Mike. I'll find my room and unpack. You two can explore the rest of the house." Once we got inside, the ominous feeling cleared away. Everything was beautifully painted and fairly modern, at least from the past 5 decades. To our left was an open kitchen, and to our right was a living room with matching red furniture. Right in front of us stood a wide wooden staircase leading to the 2nd floor. Stacy's eyes widened as she looked around. "Let's go, Mike!" she yelled and ran up the stairs, almost yanking my arm out of socket as she dragged me along. Come on, she repeated, pulling me up the 2nd set of steps until we were finally at the 3rd floor. There were only 4 doors, all hanging ajar. The first from the right partially hid a storage room filled with dusty boxes. The 2nd, a bathroom. The 3rd, Stacy noticed at the same time I did. "Pink walls and a purple bed! It's perfect!" She finally let go of my aching red arm to run into her new room. I followed slowly behind. It really did look like the perfect room for her. It was as if someone had snuck into her brain, taken an inventory of her favorite things, and then made a room designed specifically for her. The old bed creaked as she bounced on it, doing flips without her small head scraping the high and slanted ceiling. I decided to sit on the pink zebra-patterned beanbag chair on the floor. A cloud of dust puffed up as I sat, but it was otherwise extremely comfortable. "Hey, you two!" Mom called from the 1st floor. "I made some mac and cheese if you're hungry." Stacy immediately bounced off the bed and continued to bounce as I followed her back down to the kitchen. Dinner was delicious, and afterwards, I decided to unpack my clothes into my new dresser. My room seemed just as fitting to me as Stacy's had to her. the shelves full of encyclopedias, and a desk with Rubik cubes and pattern block puzzles. The walls were a light gray, and the twin bed a dark blue. The only thing I didn't like was the square picture of an up-close clown face. His eyes seemed to follow me as I paced across my room, studying it. His caked makeup was cracking from his permanent smile, which revealed pointy yellowed teeth. A deep scar ran from the top left of the clown's hairline to his right eye. I don't like to admit it, but I have coulrophobia, and the extremely realistic painting was freaking me out. I decided to just ignore it for now and unpack my things. As soon as I saw my favorite pajamas, though, I realized how tired I was, and I threw them on and then passed out on the bed. I woke the next morning to the clown face staring at me. As I took a second look, I began to see something different about the face. Instead of smiling because that's how he was painted, he looked genuinely happy. His eyes stared unblinkingly back at me for a long time. Long enough for the hair on the back of my neck to stand up. Ignoring that thought, I left to go get the breakfast I smelled from my room. Pancakes and bacon. When I arrived in the kitchen, Mom was setting the table. Stacy wasn't there yet, so I decided to ask about the picture. Just as I was about to speak, Stacy came running down the stairs, singing "Good Morning." Breakfast seemed normal. It was as if we had been living here our whole lives. "Do you two want to do some more exploring today?" Mom said as she cleaned up our syrupy dishes. "You both fell right asleep after dinner." "Will you come with me, Mommy?" Stacy asked. "Sorry, hon," Mom replied. "I have to go shopping. Mike will, though. Won't you, Mike?" Sure, I guess, if I have to," I groaned reluctantly. "Yay! Where should we go first?" Stacy asked as she twirled around the room. "I want to check out the storage on the 3rd floor, if you don't mind," I said, curious about what was in those dusty boxes. "I'll race upstairs." "Be careful," our mom yelled up the stairs after us. As soon as we stepped into the room, Stacy's dust allergy flared up and she began sneezing like crazy. "Are you okay? Do you need a Benadryl?" I asked. "No, I'll be fine," she replied after about 1,200 sniffles. "Do we have to do this room? Nothing's in these boxes but an old bunch of books." "They aren't books," I said as I lifted one out of its box. "They're journals." "Boring," Stacy yelled and ran out of the room. "I'm going to the store with Mom. Bye." I looked at the book in my hand. The side was labeled 1954. I remembered that it was the first year the house stopped being used by the traveling circus. I opened it and began to read. "I arrived here not 3 hours ago with my 2 brothers, and we already love it here. Our rooms seem perfectly furnished for each other, especially mine. The one on the 1st floor, which is eggshell white with a fancy red bed. The only thing I don't like is the painting of the clown on the wall. His teeth are big and crooked, while his makeup is all sloppy. I'm not sure I want to stay in it. Maybe I'll trade with Thomas. Not Henry, though, because he punched my eye this morning." It was cut off there. A brown stain covered the rest of the page, and the rest of them were blank. I picked up the next journal, this one labeled the following year. "I'm loving this house. My room is absolutely perfect for me, and it's the closest to the basement, too. Its shelves are full of Edgar Allan Poe novels, and the walls are painted black. My favorite part is the clown on the wall. It's ironic because clowns are usually happy. Yet this one is stuck in a screen with a black eye." It went on for another entry. "I'm back in my room after a wonderful dinner, but the clown doesn't look sad anymore. He has a huge smile despite his eye. I'm sure someone is pranking me again, like they did with the flowers underneath." Another brown blotch cut off this entry as well. I realized what was going on. I ran downstairs to tell my mom, but she had already left. I flopped on the fluffy red couch. I love reading scary stories, but I guess they're not as fun when you're actually in one. A few hours later, I was awakened when Stacy and Mom returned. They each held 2 bags in each hand. "Help me put these away, Mike," Mom said as we all unpacked the groceries. When they were all in their proper places, Mom said, "Okay, how about a game with hide and seek with the furniture now?" She pulled out the papers she picked up from outside after we fell asleep. "Okay, but first, Mom, can I ask you something?" "Anything and always." "Would you mind if I took down the clown painting in my room? It's really creeped me out." "Clown painting?" she said, checking her papers. "You shouldn't have a clown painting in your room. In fact, you don't have anything on your walls. But I do think you have a window."